What's poppin', people? It's Dante. Today we're going to be breaking down 5 of my photographs in today's street photography breakdown, part 4. And so without further ado, let's jump right into example number 1, the Palestinian girl with cat. And so essentially I've been traveling the world for the past decade all over, and in 2017 I studied abroad in Jerusalem, and I spent a lot of time for those 6 months traveling all throughout Jericho and got to know the people there. Upon my return, in the summer, I decided to volunteer in a kibbutz in Israel, in Haifa. And I spent a month there and I didn't really like it. And so I packed up my bags in the middle of the night and I took the bus from the north in Haifa all the way down to Jericho. And I wound up living in Jericho for about 2 to 3 months on my own, spontaneously, without any plans or predestinations in mind. And this was one of the photographs I made during that trip in 2018. And so I spent the summer in Jericho. And so we have this girl here. I was invited by the mother up into her home. And this family actually was one of the only Christian families I remember meeting in the village, which was interesting. She would tell me about it. And I remember actually recognizing right off the bat the beautiful mosque in the background and the simple scene of this brick wall and the cinder blocks and the different elements that I could combine to make this photograph, of course, with the obvious element being this girl with the cat. It was just a beautiful, cute moment, right? And so I decided to make a photograph of her as she was sitting down in a more minimalist composition where we have the girl gazing out to the left-hand side, revealing this tire, these little itty-bitty details that I believe tell the story of the photograph, right? We, of course, have the cat. We have that tire there on the left-hand side. We have that empty hole in the wall, which I believe adds more interest to the frame. We have the chair, and then that laundry line that's on the right-hand side, slanted. And then, of course, in the background, the mosque that's there and providing context for the location and where this photograph was made. And so when you get out there in the world, it's important to be open to interacting with people. And so by returning to this location, I approached the streets as a documentary photographer, but my interest lies in the visual aesthetics of street photography, photographing candid moments of strangers. And so I essentially combine the different workflows of going out there, interacting at scenes, getting to know people, and then when you become a familiar face, your interactions become much more genuine and authentic, and you are able to make more intimate photographs like this. And so finally, we have this clean background. We have this beautiful background of the light streaking over the wall. We have the blue sky, this very beautiful palette of colors. And the result of the photograph here is a very simple moment. You know, that strip of light coming in, it really does add this sort of pop to the frame, this like sense of, you know, time of day and the girl's gaze alongside the beautiful moment with the cat. It's just a very simple frame that I find is a little bit different than a lot of my photographs, and I just wanted to share the behind the scenes of this one to start off this video. Example number 2, we have the Amaz boat ride. Amaz is the subject in the foreground of the frame, and we would hang out pretty much every single day. We would bike to nearby villages together. He would take me on his boat rides, and he worked in transportation on the boats of Lake Bangwelu. And so I was a Peace Corps volunteer, and during my Peace Corps service, I had a lot of fun, and I wound up having so many more adventures than I could ever imagine in my life within this year period of time volunteering in this rural village. And so Amaz, being one of my best friends in the village, would take me out on adventures, and as he was washing his face here on the boat, I spontaneously began making photographs of this situation. And so I made sure to recognize that decisive moment and press the shutter at the right time, almost hanging my camera off of the side of the boat in order to separate that gesture from the background. And so a lot of the times I'm triggered by gestures, by hand movements, and the fact that I captured the moment where his hand is over top of his eyes and his face adds a little bit more intrigue and mystery to the frame. And so I made sure to position him on the left-hand side in relationship to the man with the oar on the right-hand side, whose arm is outstretched and also covering his face. And so we have this interplay between the man's gesture on the right-hand side and Amaz in the foreground on the left-hand side. Finally, we have the beautiful clouds and the light coming through them. We have the lake on the left-hand side with some of the shrubbery. And we have a simple scene here where the situation is very ambiguous. It's a regular day. It's a boat ride. It's not anything extravagant, but I believe that through finding yourself in these situations, going on an adventure, and enjoying the experience and the process of being out there in the open world, you can come home with a photograph that's impactful through a simple gesture. And this gesture tells the story. It tells the day for me, and it reminds me that photography is very simple. Photography has everything to do with how you engage with humanity out there in the open world on the front lines of life. And in order to come home with a photograph with more impact, one must be open to exploring and going on adventures and seeing new things. And so here we have example number 3, the Zambian fisherman. And so alongside Lake Bangweulu, many fishermen gather, and I actually worked in aquaculture, and so I spent a lot of time amongst the fishermen in the village. And as I would spend my time along these boats and along the lake, I recognized the potential to make photographs here due to the clean background, that clean horizon line, the beautiful sky, and the different boats and the popping colors that I could work with. And on this particular day, I found this dog that was standing on top of one of the wooden boats, and I made a photograph. And so I included the dog on the left-hand side in the foreground of the frame. In relationship with these 2 fishermen who are standing on top of the boat, we have some small details like the reflection of the man on the boat and that small boat who's departing and leaving into Lake Bangweulu there in the far background. And so the background is simple. We have this tilted horizon line, beautiful blue sky, the nice tranquil lake, and a clean scene to wrap things up with this final composition. Example number 4, we have a catfish in Philadelphia. So going from fisherman to fisherman here. Here in my hometown, Philadelphia, many people gather along the Schuylkill River to fish. And actually, when I made this photograph, I was simply going for a bike ride. But I brought my camera for the ride. And a lot of the times I like to do things that I personally enjoy when I'm out there on the streets. And so one of my favorite hobbies is to ride my bike along the bike trail here. And sometimes I'll go for miles and miles, for hours and hours, just to bike, just to get my head off of things and just to explore. And I remember when I was biking by this beautiful location here in Fairmount Park, looking out towards the skyline, we have, the art museum peeking out behind there. And I was essentially just looking out into the riverside, and I saw these fishermen, and I noticed as I was biking by, people were watching him from the distance. You can see on the left-hand side, there's that guy up there. And I remember seeing people like, oh, wow, he caught a fish, And he was struggling to catch the fish. I dropped my bike down, I ran down the stairs, and I went up to him, and I just started taking pictures. And so as he pulled the fish up from the river, I grabbed my camera over the railing, similar to how I photographed the Maz on the boat, and made this photograph of the catfish coming up as he caught it, right, in the air, floating. And we positioned the catfish against that blue sky on the right-hand side, which adds mystery, which makes the photograph a little bit more intriguing, as the catfish almost looks like it's leaping out of the air. It's leaping out of the water. The catfish, in the way that I caught this photograph, looks almost miraculous in a way. And so I just broke it down for you to give you the secret and the behind the scenes. And so we have on the left-hand side the man who's looking back out towards us, and I think that adds a little bit more visual interest. Just having a human element in that subject on the left-hand side really balances the frame, and I believe that the way he's positioned is just very simple and elegant, where he isn't necessarily the focal point of the composition, but he adds interest visually. And so we have the background. This background is absolutely stunning. Some of the most beautiful architecture in the city. You would think you're in Rome. We have all of the leading lines, the beautiful architecture, and the different elements in the background that really set the scene of this beautiful park, Fairmount Park. And so here we have the result of the catfish leaping out of the Schuylkill River here in Philadelphia. The miracle in Philadelphia. And so example number 5, we have the street barber in Mumbai. And so in the early mornings, I would wake up and I would explore the Sassoon docks, where there was this beautiful fishing village. And so I would explore the fishing dock and make photographs there. And then as I came out of the fishing dock, I noticed the street barber just right around the corner. And when I saw the street barber, I was initially drawn to this scene of the man who is getting his beer cut. And so as I saw his beer being beard being trimmed, I started just making pictures and making relationships between that man with the beard and the man getting his haircut. On the left-hand side, we have a few different elements going on here, but I really honed in on that gesture on the right-hand side as my focal point and what I was visually interested in. And so we have secondarily there on the left-hand side in the middle of the frame, we have another barber who's bending over, getting ready to work with his client there. On the left-hand side, you can see there's almost this like all the smudge and the dirt behind the man's head where the clients often probably sit, which I think is just a striking detail. And his gaze looking back towards the man who's getting his beard trimmed is also visually interesting. And then finally, this woman was swooping by with, I believe, fish on her head on that bucket and adds that foreground element. And so when I'm fishing at a scene, when I'm working a scene and I'm making a photograph of these kind of situations, I'm very aware of my foreground, my background, and the way that I can combine different things that are coming my way. And so I have my stage set with that background that I'm working back to front. I'm looking at that moment on the right-hand side. I'm making these relationships between the client and the other worker. And then I know that if I were to be patient and I'm looking with the corner of my eye on my left-hand side as people are passing by, how I can incorporate one last piece to the puzzle. And so then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 subjects in the frame by including that final woman coming by here in the foreground with her striking red color, that beautiful dress that adds more visual impact. And then finally, we have the background being very simple and clean. We have the texture of the wall. We have that dirt smudge behind the man's face. We have that towel that I highlighted in green, just to emphasize these little small details that I believe help set the situation. We have a very simple background, a very simple moment, a street barber in Mumbai, something that caught my eye when I came out from the Sissoon docks photographing very early in the morning, around 5, 6 a.m. perhaps, and this moment was very much just a matter of being there, present, working the scene, and then waiting as somebody entered the frame. And so if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more from me, please feel free to visit my website at dantesisofo.com, where I break down more of my photographs. You can click on my Start Here page and access a free PDF with my contact sheets. I also have a full Rico GR workflow video and blog post. You can visit my YouTube channel you can find my playlist where I show you the behind the scenes of me working in the streets in Mumbai, India with my POV street photography in Mumbai series. And yeah, stay tuned for more videos by me breaking down more street photography. And I hope that this video inspired you to go out there and hit the streets, and hopefully something I taught you today can help you learn and maybe apply some of these ideas and ways that I work into your practice. So thank you for watching this video once again. And with that being said, I will see you in the next one. Peace.